a cause of action, which will be brought in the High Court of Trinidad and Tobago.
And I'm actually very much glad for that correction because I do not think people understand what tort is, and I think that is something. I know Naomi asked that question, but I believe that tort is something, or tort law is something that also needs to be defined for those who are viewing this morning. Or if you can just speak briefly on it so people have an understanding.
Certainly. Tort is defined in law as a civil wrong as opposed to a criminal wrong. So it's a civil wrong and it's actionable in the High Court, and there are various types of tort. There is negligence, which is a tort. There is wrongful arrest, false imprisonment, and those are some examples of tort emanating from criminal law, but ultimately being decided for whether the actions were right or wrong in the civil arena, and they are torts as well. And private nuisance is no different, not emanating from criminal law, purely civil, but a tort as well. So a tort is a civil wrong that will be ventilated in the civil courts.
I think, Naomi, you had just asked a question in respect to remedies, and I think we can get into that aspect now. So, what are some of the solutions or remedies, as asked by Naomi, Mr. Liu, in respect to dealing with private nuisance cases?
Okay, so remedies, which is for the listening public, those who are not legal minds, it is simply solutions that the court can impose in order to address the complaint of the nuisance, whatever the nuisance might be. And if the court is indeed satisfied that it meets the requirements to be defined as a nuisance, and the court so finds, the court could now and will look into what is the solution. So the court can make an order, or as we call it legally, an injunction, prohibiting the action that causes the nuisance. The court can give an order for abatement, not necessarily to stop the nuisance, but to abate it, to lessen the impact of the effect on the other person in terms of the use of their land. So you can have, as I said, an injunction to prohibit, an order to abate, to lessen, or you can have an order for damages, more colloquially called compensation. That is also something that can be addressed as well. Water that may cause damage to your land from another person's land, using their land in some way, and it causes physical damage to your property, there can be compensation for that. So it can be, to sum it up again, compensation in order to lessen the impact, in order to prohibit the activity. Those are generally the remedies that are suitable to that type of tort.
Mr. Liu, going back to what you said about the injunction being given, is an injunction permanent or is it temporary?
An injunction can be both. There is what you call in civil law an interim injunction, whereby a claimant can argue or posit to the court that they need an immediate injunction, albeit that the matter has not yet been fully determined. And that's called an interim injunction. It may stay until the matter is completed, or it may be removed an application by the other side. Then there is an injunction which can be a permanent or perpetual injunction, which can come at the end of the matter and the trial, and that stays in place forever, unless there is some application by the defendant to have it varied or removed.
You spoke about abatements as well. In your opinion, should individuals actually try to stop the nuisance themselves? Is this something that, even though is a possible solution, is it something that is advisable?
It depends on the nature of the nuisance and the action they intend to take to stop it. One has to be careful in stopping it that the potential claimant does not themselves breach some sort of law, be it criminal law or otherwise. So one must be very careful in stopping it. It depends on the nature. You know, if you most cases, though, it's difficult to stop a nuisance on your side of the land, so to speak, based on the cases that I have seen before the court. Let's say, for instance, that example I give you of the overhead lines. The overhead lines are actually over the person's property, in the center. There's nothing that that person can do, nor ought to do, because actually if they interfere with the lines, there can be a certain breach under a certain act by interfering with that public property. So generally, I would advise against it. Seek legal advice as to what might be appropriate or not in the circumstances.
Can you tell? Sorry.
My apologies. Go ahead.
Can you tell us, Mr. Liu, of any cases that, or notable cases that we can use as an example to further understand your points?
Okay, so what I wanted to say, and I'm happy you asked that, it is not only related for the listening public to as between neighbor John and neighbor Harry. And those are fictional names. It's not strictly related to that. If you have a neighbor who is a company, let's say in the business of operations involving dogs or ducks, and it's a what we call let's say a company formed under the Companies Act. So it's not a limited liability company per se. You can bring that company, that entity, before the court as well. So it's not limited to strictly a neighbor situation or a situation where it is purely of a residential nature. That needs to be understood. The other point I want to drive, and that is from a case that I'm using that reference. Another case in which I would use a reference that might be useful to the general public is that case involves statutory body, a public utility body, okay? And that body has been brought before the court for a nuisance. Okay, so I want the listening public to understand that it is not only related to strictly your neighbor who is an individual, an entity can be brought before the court as well, where you are a private individual and your land is affected in some way, or you are affected.
Is this something that is quite common in Trinidad and Tobago in respect to private nuisance complaints?
Sorry, repeat the question.
Is this something that is quite common in Trinidad and Tobago in respect to cases of private nuisance complaints?
Yes, it is actually. It is. There isn't in Trinidad, in my personal view, much supervision by the relevant authorities as to what someone does with their land, and therefore very frequently disputes arise between persons who occupy adjoining premises or premises that are close by to one another. So yes, it is quite common. Maybe persons shy away from it because it is a high court action, and therefore there would be legal fees and going to court, etc., etc. But yes, it is common.
How does one begin this entire process, though? You know, as you just said, people don't necessarily like to go to court, but how does one begin the process should they have complaints? What would be your advice in respect to the first steps that one takes?
Well, I would say this in terms of being fair to the listening public. There is a preliminary action that if one may call it an alternative action that one may take to the extent of making a complaint to the public health inspector for the relevant corporation with jurisdiction for the area in which the wrong is taking place. that public health inspector can take certain actions under the Health Act, which may have similar effect, similar, not the same, similar effect, because he cannot award damages and so on. Similar effect to the court. If that does not work, to answer your question now more directly, the first process which is required legally is to have a pre-action protocol letter issued to the alleged wrongdoer, essentially outlining the complaints and indicating what the claimant or the potential claimant wishes to have done with respect to the complaint. And if that letter is not adhered to, a claim is then issued for the tort and ventilated in the court by the High Court.
Are there cases or instances where the damages have happened and the affected party can be awarded money?
Yes, there have been cases where there has, because of the nuisance of whatever nature it is, has caused damage to, let's say, a building or the structure itself, and there have been damages that have been awarded. It's of course based on a lot of things, the quantum, what is the necessary amount that is required to fix the issue, if the issue can be fixed at all, what is the value of the item that is now no longer usable. Those are the types of things that will dictate what the amount would be. So it wouldn't be a fixed amount, it would be based on the particular damage that was done. The compensation would match that to a great extent.
To tie this back into something you previously said about recurring instances, something like damages, I mean, if it's a case where something on your property has been, whether it's vandalized or broken, I mean, that's something that can happen once. Can someone now go and deal with that with regard to the private nuisance law?
If it has to be recurrent, so if it's a one-off situation, it may not satisfy the necessary legal ingredients for private nuisance. There may have to be other laws which may be applicable depending on how the neighbor damages your property or what the action is. There may be a criminal law element, either by making a report to the police for malicious damage, or you can bring your own private criminal complaint against the individual if the police not taking action. But a one-off event generally is not for private nuisance. You know, if as I said, it's one-off, but it damages something on your property, and it does not have a criminal element nor a private law element, there may be other issues like negligence, that type of thing, or a concept of what we call Rylands and Fletcher, where something escapes from one person's land and causes damage to the other person's land. So there will be other remedies, not under private nuisance.
Well, Mr. Liu, I want to thank you very much for joining Naomi and I on the program this morning, because we are out of time. But for all the information that you have relayed to us, and for really educating Naomi and I and the viewing public, we thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time and for sharing all that you have with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. All the very best to you. Take care.
You all as well. Have a pleasant day.
Well, Naomi, I think now on the program we're going to take a quick break. I think we're going to get into another topic of conversation next, and when we return, that begins. So stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back after this.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus, quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Thanks for being with us again this morning, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue the conversation. Amy has just stepped out for a bit, so she'll be joining us hopefully in a little while. But we are joined this morning by the Deputy Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Dr. Faith B. Israel. What is going on in Tobago? It seems as though, once more, a political storm is brewing. It's getting, the tensions are rising, ladies and gentlemen, though this week has remained relatively quiet in relation to circumstances following a press conference by the Secretary for Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development last week, Thursday, in regards to a search warrant being executed by his home. But again, as I mentioned, it just seems as though a political storm is brewing once more. At least that's what the Chief Secretary said. So let's say what's happening in Tobago. Good morning, Dr. Faith B. Israel. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. And yes, so a political storm has been brewing for quite some time. I want to give three specific examples, but before doing that, I want to jog our memories to go back to the period just before the election, when the Prime Minister said to Tobago that if Tobagonians voted for us, he would not forgive the island. I am not sure if Trinidadians heard that statement, but that was said. I think it was a political event that they were having on the island, where he said very clearly that he would not forgive Tobago if Tobagonians voted for what was, we were then the PDP, and he would not forgive us. So it is quite clear that he is holding true. It may be one of the few things that he says that he is honest about and is holding true to. But I kind of want us, I was listening to a conversation recently by a legal mind who was speaking about the fact that the law is surrounded by this concept of what a reasonable person would say or would think or would believe or would do. That's why we have a juror system. It's supposed to be a group of reasonable people who are your peers, listening to what is happening on the ground, listening to what is happening in your case, and then determining whether you are guilty or innocent. So I would like us to just think through, what is your reasonable thought given everything that has happened to us since we've come into office? So I want to share several examples. I don't know if Trinidad knows that the licensing department converges on the island of Tobago every couple months as if it is, when we experienced the total policing thing a couple years ago, where everything shuts down? That is what Tobago feels like every couple months, because it seems like the entire licensing department leaves Trinidad and comes to Tobago and has roadblocks right through the island. And it usually happens at a period when we are just about to have some major activity that would bring economic development on the island. So some major festival or something. And like clockwork, every couple of days just before the event, licensing converges, and we now have to deal with that on the island. And we know no one is saying that we need to be above the law. No one is saying that, we should be driving in derelict vehicles or anything like that. But the frequency within which it happens and the timing of it is certainly very, very, very concerning. In one of those, there was a situation where, again, the chief secretary's wife was stopped, and she did not, like many of us females, unfortunately, with a million handbags, did not have her actual license on her. But the regular thing that has happened, and it has happened to me in the past, you have a couple days to present your license to the police station or to the licensing office or something like that. Even though the document was brought to her by the chief sex security detail, she was still held for over an hour. Can you imagine Sharon Rowley being caught without her license, being held in a public street by licensing officers for more than an hour? Sharon Rowley, that happening to her? I do not know that anybody would think that that is a normal thing that would happen. Again, by no means is anybody saying that we should be above the law or that we should get away with illegality, but it seems like the arms of the state that are responsible for quote unquote policing or for providing levels of law seem to work way more efficiently in Tobago than they do otherwise. Let me give another example. So let's talk about what happened with Secretary James. Most people probably don't know that Secretary James is actually the secretary with responsibility for licensing in Tobago. The officers who work in the office, in licensing office in Tobago, are actually paid by the Tobago House of Assembly. They are employees of the Tobago House of Assembly. I am sure that if there was a situation where the Minister of Transportation, for example, had his vehicle inspected, had his vehicle passing the inspection and given the sticker to put on the vehicle, if there would have been a situation where if there was some kind of question about that, if licensing would have shown up with police at Minister Sinanan's home to re-inspect the vehicle with a warrant to confiscate Minister Sinanan's devices. Just think about this reasonably. When we heard what happened, we thought, okay, so they're coming to do the reinspection. Okay, sure. What the phone had to do with that? Why was the phone confiscated? The phone of the secretary who has responsibility for licensing in Tobago? Why was his phone taken? And by the way, the inspection happened. They did not confiscate the vehicle. They did not say.
Is Secretary James currently, is he under any police investigation or any investigation at all?
So the warrant is a warrant through the police speaking about, it was so vague, the warrant was so vague that it basically says that there may be some kind of criminal activity linked to the licensing issue. So they have the authority to take his device and to take any device. So if Secretary James goes and purchases a phone now, they can come back tomorrow and take that device again. So
okay, so I did see a copy of the warrant. I was able to see a copy of the warrant, and it did seem quite vague and rather confusing. But given all that you said and the examples that you put forward, do you still think it's reasonable to suggest that this is linked to the People's National Movement, and the People's National Movement is launching a witch hunt against the THA executive, so said by the Chief Secretary?
Absolutely, yes. Because we have a situation where, again, all of the agencies of the state seem to be converging on Tobago and Tobagonians in a fashion that has never been seen before. And let me give my example. Way back when, my home was searched. Why was my home searched? And I don't know, I have not made that search warrant public, but I would read parts of what that search warrant said. It says it's a search warrant of the Anti-Corruption Investigation Bureau. There is reasonable grounds for believing that information received and verily believed is that there may be contracts, payment details, internal memorandum, minutes of meetings, blah, 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 including on devices like cell phones and that kind of stuff. They went into a very lengthy list of things. So it could be tablets, any kind of device. Concerning the employment, and this is the critical part, concerning the employment of Faith B. Israel, who was allegedly hired by the Tobago House of Assembly from November 2021 to present, which would afford reasonable grounds to suspect that Faith B. Israel was hired and allegedly paid from the state funds, that is the Tobago House of Assembly, funds for the sole purpose of carrying on the alleged propaganda machinery. Me.
That
Elected member of the Tobago House of Assembly. Me, who've been a member of the Tobago House of Assembly as a minority councillor since 2017, who was elected as an assemblyman in January of 2021, and then re-elected again as an assemblyman in December of 2021, who, if you simply search my name when they took this warrant to wherever they take it to be signed, if you simply search my name, it will come up and say that Faith B. Israel is the Secretary of Health, Wellness, and Social Protection, the Assemblyman for a district in Tobago in the Tobago House of Assembly. Me. What else are we supposed to think?
in that regard, let me move on with the conversation, because the Chief Secretary did indicate that the entire team, and I suppose that means the executive, is prepared to fight this matter to the very end and ensure that it comes to a resolution quickly. It has been 1 week. Any sight of a resolution, or are tensions still very much escalating?
So we are doing what we have to do. For example, I currently, and I will not speak too much about it, actually have a case in the court at this moment because of this search warrant, because of this invasion of my space, because of how it was done, because of why we think it was done, because of all of the mechanisms surrounding it. So we are fighting. Now, I am not going to detail here on national television our strategy for fighting, but we have been, and we will continue fighting. Now, let me give another example. There is a certain contractor in Tobago who has actually threatened the chief secretary. And that contractor who has threatened the chief secretary, we have not gotten any word. And yes, we've made a report. Yes, everything is, I don't even, has that person's device been confiscated? Has that person even been interviewed after threatening the highest member, the highest office holder on the island that was duly elected by the people of Tobago? Has that person even been interviewed? No. That person's family member, who happens to currently be in a bacchanal in Trinidad about illegal quarrying, coincidentally, that person's quarry in Trinidad got a license from, again, the same state agencies within, what, 3 weeks. The same kind of license 3 years now.
I think we lost you there for a moment, Dr. B. Israel, but you are back with us. In respect to, finding a resolution, do you think that it is, is there any benefit at all for this becoming a political and very much public spat, in the sense that though you and Secretary James have every right, if you feel as though your rights have actually been stepped on, or infringed upon, you have every right to seek some sort of redress, whether it be through the course of law or otherwise. But however, do you think that it does not augur well? Because if yourself and Secretary James are very much innocent of any wrongdoing, as you have put forward in the public domain, if there's nothing to be concerned of, a police investigation would simply not reveal anything.
Certainly, but if this was a simple police investigation that was duly done, that was accurately done, that was done because they actually had evidence to prove that, for example, I was hired by the Tobago House of Assembly, I would have no challenge whatsoever. But it is clear that they are doing this because they want to embarrass us. They are the ones making this public, They are the ones making this public. Because if, for example, Secretary James, if there was an issue with and his vehicle needed to be inspected, they could have simply called and said, hey man, your vehicle need to be re-inspected. Come back down now. Literally, it is literally right there. Come back and let me look at this thing again. They are the ones who chose to go with several police officers to his home to embarrass him. They're the ones who are making this a public spectacle. They're the ones who are actively going out of their way to try to turn the island against us. And because they are doing that, we are not going to sit back quietly and do nothing and just take it and say, well, I innocent, so I ain't had nothing to worry about. Because it is clear that our innocence has not protected us thus far. It is quite clear that our innocence has not protected us thus far. And we need all of Trinidad and Tobago to know that we are now basically in a state where the government can tell its security mechanisms what to do and, in fact, terrorize political opponents. And by no means will I stay quiet in Trinidad and Tobago. No.
Dr. B. Israel, what is the working relationship like between the THA executive and central government?
So each of us have different types of relationships with our counterparts. So for example, if I need to call the minister for something, or the minister for health needs to call me for something, that is fine. We call each other. We interact as we should. But it is not the relationship. This is not a personal relationship. We are not friends with anyone, and we should not need to be friends to do what is required. So, for example, the law says, the THA Act says, that the Chief Secretary and the Prime Minister are supposed to meet frequently. That has not happened in a while, and the way protocol is, it really is the Chief Secretary isn't the one that should be reaching out to the Prime Minister and say, hey, let me meet, although he has done that on multiple occasions, and that is not happening the way it frequently should. So this idea of us having a relationship is one that I want us to not think about in that traditional way. There are required types of interactions that need to happen. If something is if something relates to the Tobago space, the Tobago House of Assembly is the entity that is responsible for the policies as it relates to that thing in Tobago. So it's only kind of courtesy, it's only, good manners to say, hey, the government of Trinidad and Tobago is doing something. Let us see if we can work together. And let me give you another quick example. There's a huge WASA project that was just wrapped up in Tobago. While that WASA project was going on, there were conversations that said, hey, earlier we go in and fix that road down there just now. Don't run the WASA pipe and then right there. It's right there we go in and put the road. What did they do? Totally ignore, put the road exactly where they put it, and now we have to think about whether we have to spend money to move the WASA lines or not because of the trajectory of where the road is and where the road is supposed to go and so forth. And it is that kind of utter disrespect that we are talking about, where you think that you can do whatever you wish. You do not have to speak to us. You do not have to interact with us. You don't have to do anything with us. And you can just do what you wish. Same thing is happening, for example, with the airport. We are yet to get any information about the airport that is being rebuilt that is almost finished. I hear it is almost finished because I am seeing other people talking about it almost being finished. We have never been given the courtesy of saying, okay, well, let's go and have a look at it. These are the plans. We still have no idea what the plans are for that airport that is almost finished. Kind courtesy says that the Tobago House of Assembly is the arm of the government in Tobago responsible for managing day-to-day activities in Tobago. Let's have a for manners' sake conversation.
Dr. B. Israel, I think based on what you've presented to us this morning and the viewing public, it's not a political war brewing in Tobago, it's a political war that has stewed in Tobago and is very much existent. Dr. B. Israel, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning. I know that the PNM Tobago Council, they have responded through Minority Leader Kelvin Morris, as well as the political leader Ansel Dennis, saying that we should not turn police investigations into political propaganda. I don't know if you want to respond to both Mr. Morris and Mr. Dennis before we wrap things up for this morning.
You know, it is coincidental that Mr. Dennis has the gall to say anything, where he publicly admitted that he was actually paying someone to try to get dirt on us, to try to get us in trouble. And he was actually paying the person who came about as the whistleblower, who definitely lied on us. So, which is part of what this whole brew started with way back when. So, the council, the PNM in Tobago and is led by the PNM in Trinidad, so they have no choice but to say what they said, and it is a shame that they are choosing their political organization over Tobago. And I guess that is why Tobago voted the way it did in December 2021. That is why it is now 14-1, because Tobagonians are saying that the People's National Movement is an organization that does not care about them, but only cares about themselves.
Dr. B. Israel, thank you very much for your time this morning. All the best to you and to all Tobagonians today. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, any updates in respect to the situation on the island of Tobago from the aspect of the executive, we will bring to you on AM Prime. I know that there is some tragic news coming out of the island of Tobago this morning. But we will get more information on that and to bring it to you throughout the course of the day. Let's see if we can bring you an update right after this. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi Macnish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Tobago murder toll rises to 22 after fatal shooting in Palatuvier. New trade and investment agency formed in Trinidad and Tobago. Sealot's heroes honored for saving officer from burning car. And internationally, protesters storm Mexico's Senate over judicial overhaul. Now for the details. Tobago's murder count has reached 22 this year after a man was shot dead early this morning in Palatuvier. Alvin Daniel and a woman were in a car around 4 a.m. when gunmen opened fire on them. Daniel was rushed to the Roxborough General Hospital where he was pronounced dead. 3 state agencies, InvestTT, ExportTT, and CreativeTT, have merged to form the Trinidad and Tobago Trade and Investment Promotion Agency. The government says the new agency aims to streamline services and align with international best practices to boost trade and investment. Chairman Franco Costello confirmed the agency's board met for the first time on August 14th, adding that operations of the former agencies will remain unchanged during the transition period. Existing contacts and agreements will continue with further updates expected soon. 2 Sea-Lot residents, Deshaun Hamilton and Terrence David, have been recognized for their bravery after rescuing a police officer from a burning car on the Beetham Highway last week. The East Port of Spain Development Company praised the men's heroic actions after learning of the incident. Despite the risk of the vehicle exploding, the men pulled the officer from the wreckage following a crash near Production Avenue. East Port of Spain Chairman Helen Maureen commended their courage, stating it was deserving of recognition. Internationally, hundreds of protesters broke into Mexico's Senate as lawmakers debated a controversial judicial overhaul plan backed by President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. The plan, which would make all judges elected, has sparked widespread protests, with critics fearing it could undermine judicial independence. Protesters forced a temporary Senate recess after they entered the chambers, clashing with police. The ruling Morina's party is pushing for the reform, which passed the lower house and could soon head to a vote in the Senate, despite opposition and concerns from both inside and outside the country. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi Macnish. Thanks for watching.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Naomi is back. Naomi just had to pop off to ensure that we had some news this morning. Hello, Naomi. Welcome back to Amplia. It's good to see you again.
Hi, thank you. I could not miss this interview this morning.
Yes,
this one in particular.
It is incredible, actually, this story that is coming out of Palms Park in San Fernando. At least that's where it was hosted. But 16-year-old Mackenzie Reese Mahabio has taken on a project which I find absolutely incredible. She's opened a mini library, Tales and Trails Little Library, at Palms Park in San Fernando. It was actually opened on World Literacy Day. So much to get into. Let me welcome Miss Reese Mahabio this morning. She's with us virtually. Good morning, Mackenzie Reese Mahabio. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you there, and thanks for being with us this morning. So, let me start by asking you, where did you get this idea, or what inspired you rather to make all this effort to actually open and make available to the public the library?
Well, the idea came from myself and my personal love for reading and how much I wanted to share it. And I just knew the amount of joy that I got from sitting down, maybe after a long day, or sitting down and just opening a book and feeling that peace from reading the book, and I wanted to share it, and also the excitement that I get from doing it with little kids in the community. And I also knew that the environment of Palmy's Park, which is so beautiful, would be a good spot to put it in, and they could just go and feel that, like, the environment, and open a book, and they would feel what I feel when I open the book.
So
What are
sorry, I think you got through. Go ahead.
No, I would really like to know what are the ages that can partake in these books? Is it all ages? Is it just kids? Who can partake in these books?
So the age groups of books that I currently have there are ages 3 to 12. So for the younger kids, the age group would be some early learning books, some books with like numbers, animals, short story books that they can enjoy. And then as you get older, there would be like adventure, classic novels and stuff. So it's really for kids 3 to 12.
Okay, so I have to be very honest with you in that respect. Oh, there's something that popped in there, but in that respect, actually, I will tell you, Mackenzie, that I myself very much enjoy those novels as a kid in primary school and secondary school. So I think adults will still very much back to that, because even now we still speak about things like the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, the Famous Five.
Yeah.
With lights and novels. So I think even though it says ages 3 to 12, there might be some adults, myself, who will still be interested in reading.
Yes, you could come and read too.
Definitely. But Mackenzie, in respect to actually getting these books to stock the library, actually, Mackenzie, I apologize for that. So we're going to have to take a quick break here. As I said, I think something just popped up on the screen. So let's take a quick break here on the program. When we return, we'll continue the conversation.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really want
to me. Respond to me. How you would respond to me?
The first question I'll ask is why.
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say, we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
thank you very much for being with us once more, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for that. Technology, it loves us. We love it. Sometimes it really just goes on protest as well, but that's okay. We've made up for it. Mackenzie is with us once more. Mackenzie, thanks for being with us on the program. And as I was mentioning early on, inquiring actually, in respect to stocking this library for many kids to enjoy the books that have been available, how was that like? Did you have other people participating, volunteering, or donating?
Yes, so these first set of books that I stocked the library with, well, most of them were my childhood books. So the books that I read when I was younger that I was willing to put into the library. And then I asked some of my friends for books that they weren't using, and they generously gave me some. My teachers as well contributed, and we went to a few bookstores and they contributed books to the library as well. So it was like a group effort to get the library stocked in time for the opening day.
And but you said these books are actually made available to the public. Is this a permanent fixture at Palmy's Park?
Can you repeat? I'm not sure.
Is this
I think my audio.
No, that's fine. Is it a permanent fixture at Palmy's Park, or is it that you set up the library, for example, over the weekend? When is this actually available for kids to come and enjoy it?
Oh, yes, the library is open every day. So it would be open for kids from the hours of 9 till around 6. So anytime during that time they can come. So it's a every day, every week type of library.
Were you worried at all or concerned during the setup of this that books would be stolen or vandalized?
Yes, so when I was first going through the process of putting it up, the thought of people vandalizing the library or maybe taking some books, it did cross my mind, but I knew that I was putting the library there to benefit the community, and it was really built on the trust in the community that they would see that it would benefit the younger generation and they would see the good intention in it and they would choose to contribute to it or to like up it instead of something that would cause it to maybe go like out of running or something. So it is my hope that they would see that and they would choose to return those books before they leave the library.
Yeah, I think we can all take some positivity there because he has got good faith in people. She says, I'm doing a good thing and people are going to do good in return. So we can take some positivity from Mackenzie's optimism there. We like that. We appreciate that.
I agree. Mackenzie, have there been any issues so far since the library has opened?
No, there hasn't been any issues, but it's because like if you go to the park right now, you would see that there aren't any books in the library right now. And that was because on opening day, there was like a mishap with the door and like getting the books to stay dry during the rain. And we realized that the door that we had at that time, there needed some adjustments to happen. So once we get the door fixed, then we will put books. But that might happen probably this afternoon or early tomorrow. So
Mackenzie, why do you think reading is so important? Why do you think reading is something that you want to encourage children to actually get more involved in a world where everything is technology? I mean, we're doing this interview virtually, and many people just go online now to even read the newspapers. Why do you want to encourage them to get involved in physical books, traditional books?
Yes. So I think that paper printed books is really the root of reading and or the excitement that comes from it. So I think that reading and the literacy skills that you get from it, it not only helps you to communicate better and to develop personally, especially for kids at those young ages, but reading, it helps you to explore and to find new adventures that I'm sure those kids would be very appreciative of, like coming from school, getting that break from all the academic reading. The recreational reading would be refreshing for them, and they'd be able to enjoy all those stories and to visit hundreds of places just from one storybook. And I think that reading, it is really fundamental, and the benefits that you get from it, you can't find it anywhere else.
What is your favorite book right now, Mackenzie?
My favorite book right now, my favorite book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Yeah.
Classic indeed. I thought you was going to say something like a chemistry textbook or math textbook. I don't mean to say. She's like, no way at all, not at all. Mackenzie, one thing that we learned actually was that you are a Form 5 student at Amplia Girls High School. And it's incredible because when most people are pushing so much and focusing on CSEC, you've been able to be brilliant in both aspects. You've been able to focus on your school, but also find time to give this to the public. Could you tell us about that work-life balance that you've been able to find that some adults can't even get themselves?
Yeah, I think I've always been able to have that balance because it was something that I practiced all through primary school, having SEA to focus on and having those tests to focus on, but always finding time to do extracurricular, always finding time to do things unrelated to academics on weekends. And I think it really rolled over into my secondary school life, where, yes, I know it's one of the biggest exams of my life, CSEC coming up, and I'm finding time to really put that extra effort into studying and to doing all the academics. But, if I have some time on the side, I would want to use it to do something non-related to academics or give back. So it wasn't really a challenge for me to do because I grew up doing that. So I was accustomed to doing it. So I think I could find that balance and time management pretty well.
I actually think you're going to have to teach some of us that. But in that respect, Mackenzie, volunteerism, you said give back. Is volunteerism something that you want to continue pursuing as you continue to grow yourself? Is it something that you think you really would like to focus on more?
Yes, I think volunteering and giving back to the community, any community in whatever little way that you can, is always a good thing, and it always, develops your character in unimaginable ways. Like if a person just goes about life, they could be so successful, but you always need to remember where you came from and always give back, even if it is by doing the smallest things or for anyone that you can. Volunteering and giving back to people is something that everyone should try to do.
Now, where can people get more information in respect to the Tales and Trails library? In fact, even in respect to when it is open to the public, what are the times?
So the times that they will be open are around 9 a.m. and we'll be there to close it at 6 p.m. And they could get more information on this at our Instagram page or our Facebook page at Tales and Trails TT, and they can contact us there if they have any questions or any concerns about it. And soon we'll be putting out like information on donations or information on how the library itself will be operating if anyone wants to contribute it, so they can go look for all the information.
Excellent. That's great. Where more people can get involved. I think this is a fantastic initiative because you and I have spoken many times of the power of reading. Even us in studio, we actually prefer to read the physical newspaper as compared to the online version. So Naomi, I think I don't know about you, but I think I think to walk down memory lane, I've got to go to Palmy's Park to enjoy a bit of potato. I hope we don't
go and take a look. Take a look.
I hope you don't mind a little big kid actually to see what is available. Mackenzie, thank you very much for joining Naomi and I on the program this morning. Thank you very much for being with us. Congratulations on this initiative. I think it's incredible what you've done and what you're doing. I think it's most incredible to learn that you are actually informed and you're making such a big difference already. So we expect only great things to come from you, as you already started doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All the best. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, you can get more information, as Mackenzie mentioned, from talesandtrails.tt. That is their Instagram handle. As she mentioned, soon they will be putting out information in respect to how the library operates and how you yourself can play a part by donating books. So we encourage parents. I mean, Palmy's Park is beautiful. It's really, really very much beautiful. In fact, arguably possibly one of the only true parks that we have in TNT. You know, when you think about parks and you think about what we see abroad, Palmy Park actually offers that. So, I would encourage all parents, if you're looking
Yes.
for something calm and relaxing to do, head to the library. Naomi, have you been to Palmy Park?
I have. I used to take walks through the park. I know there's a portion of the park where I don't know if it's still there, but there used to be a tire swing. That was, if you have never been, I think this is a perfect reason
It
to
definitely
go and have a look.
I totally agree with you. It certainly is a perfect reason to go. Well, Naomi, I think let's take a quick break here because there are a couple of stories that we wanted just to get into and share with the audience this morning before we bid them farewell for the rest of the day. So let's take a quick break here on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you for being with us. Naomi McNish joins me on the program this morning as my co-host. Naomi, how are you again? Hanging in there still?
Hanging in there.
All right, Naomi, a couple of news stories to get into. The first actually is coming out of Palatuvia. Palatuvia seems to have had a really, really awful day yesterday. And that's quite possibly putting it lightly. I know that you were just speaking about a man who was shot and killed in Palatuvia yesterday. Tobago has recorded now 22 murders for the year thus far, and that's 22 confirmed murders, because there's another story coming out of Palatuvia where a mother and her 2 children were actually found dead inside a decommissioned water and sewage authority tank in Palatuvia last night. police officers from the Maria police station in Tobago discovered the bodies of Sarah Smith, 33 years of age, from Palatube, along with her 3-year-old son, a genuine, and 18-month-old daughter, Phoenix, in the water tank, which is near to their home. This actually follows an operation by police officers that also involved the Hunters Search and Rescue Team. It is being stated, according to reports, that the mother and her 2 children were last seen in Trinidad on August 30th, but they were actually seen physically for the last time in Tobago on September 2nd. Naomi, at this time, that's all the information that we really have. It says that officers noticed a smell yesterday around 5 p.m. that led them to the 40-foot tank, and they discovered the bodies. But as I said, this is all the information we have at this time. It's just tragic. This is horrible news coming out of Palatube.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
In that respect, Tobago is, as Dr. Faith B. Israel said it before the interview, actually said Tobago is going through a rather difficult time. The island is facing a lot of difficulties. To lose a mother and 2 children in this particular manner, it is so sad. Our condolences to the entire family. I know that a media outlet tried to contact the grandmother and the mother, actually, of Miss Sarah Smith yesterday. She could not speak, and we very much are understanding of that.
I don't think we can express enough how concerning and troubling this is to hear that kids, I mean, these kids were small, very small.
Exactly, and you're right. I don't think we can express our condolences, but we also, it's very difficult, especially when you're on television, to actually show your true raw emotion, because it's what we see and what we hear every day. It really, really bothers you to the extent that sometimes you just can't sleep, because this is what we have to report on every day in Trinidad and Tobago. But again, our condolences to the entire family, and we are waiting for the word following police investigations. So that is one. There's another story that we're getting into now, and this is nothing to do directly with Trinidad and Tobago, but more so still very much being talked about.
Mm-hmm.
That was the debate that happened on Tuesday night between former President Trump and current Vice President Kamala Harris, both actually contesting the elections in the United States, the presidential elections, in a couple of months' time. Naomi, let me reserve my thoughts afterwards. What did you think? Because I think you view that debate.
I did it a couple times. I watched it live. My opinion on it, I really thought it was going one direction. I was all for the points that Kamala Harris made. The second time I watched it, I think each time I watched it, my views on it changed, because the more you listen is the more you realize they're not making much sense. And it was a lot of petty squabble, very distracting, very distracting. I couldn't focus enough on one point.
I agree with you, but you see, you couldn't focus enough on one point because they couldn't focus enough on one point.
On one point.
And people afterwards were trying to figure out who won this debate in particular. Who do you think won that debate?
I know many people are saying that Kamala Harris won. I would say so if I was to stay in line with their thoughts, because her points, she was more straight and narrow than Trump. But in my personal opinion, I don't think neither of them won.
I actually fully agree with you, because I myself did not view the debate in its entirety, simply because it was very difficult to digest.
Mm-hmm.
So TKRO playing that night as well. But I did actually see most of
I watched both.
I was able to watch both. And quite frankly, both programs were very frustrating at times. But with respect to Trump and Kamala Harris, listen, people are saying that Kamala Harris won it because she baited Trump many a times, and Trump fell for it. He focused on himself. He blundered a lot. He made a lot of flaws. quite frankly, Donald Trump did what we know Donald Trump will do. People speak about how he can be very aggressive, he makes very good points, and he argues very well. That's all well and good, but Donald Trump, of course, he's going to fall for that bait. If you speak about his character so often, that is who he is. That is not necessarily a flaw on his part because we've grown so accustomed to that. However, I cannot say Kamala Harris won. I can't agree with anyone who says Kamala Harris won because up until this point, I still am not entirely clear as per her policies. Donald Trump, when it came to the Affordable Health Care Act, again, nothing to do directly with Trinidad, but of course, American elections and American politics will have an effect on us. Again, you see what's going on right now in Venezuela. You know what's going on with our oil and gas relations. Something to look at. Donald Trump could not answer the question on the Affordable Health Care Act. He simply spoke saying that we don't have a plan as yet, but we have a concept of a plan. I don't understand what that is, what a concept of a plan is. Either you have a plan or you don't have a plan. I don't know
he said it 3 times. Three times that he has this concept of a plan that he will talk about if he's president-elect. But he could not talk about that and there. So my thoughts were, I don't think you have a plan at all, or a concept of a plan.
But no, and you're absolutely right. But then answer this: does Kamala Harris have a plan? Does she have a plan? We didn't. She says, "I have a plan." She didn't say, "I have a concept of a plan." She says, "I have a plan." Do you know what that plan is?
She did speak about certain things that she will do. I know she spoke about the tax reduction and some incentive monetary thing with houses and all these different things. But she also, I don't think she has a solid plan either, because she just kept saying the same thing over and over, selling a dream, as I said yesterday, a beautifully wrapped dream to the American people. But neither of them, I couldn't watch it.
She did not answer. I mean, Donald Trump did not do it, but Kamala Harris did not answer any of the questions. She did not answer any of the questions directly. She focused so much on Trump and trying to beat Trump that, to me, I still don't know if I was an American citizen, who essentially is the best person for the US right now. Because people are speaking about party lines and Democrats and Republicans. But you take a look at the individual who is best suited for the United States right now. I'm not talking about for the world at this point. I'm talking about for the US. I still am not entirely sure because Kamala Harris has not put forward the points that she should have focused on. She has not spoken to the extent of which the questions were asked. And I think that it's very difficult to say who won this particular debate. Naomi, do you think that there is a need for a second debate to have a clearer understanding of policies and plans, not concepts of plans, but rather actual plans?
A second debate would be nice to see, and hopefully, if it does happen, we can get a clearer understanding of their plans. But if they go the same route that they went in this first debate, it makes no sense. They should just not do it, and we should leave it at this, and let the American people vote.
Well, at the end of the day, it is for the American people to vote. I guess we will hear more of their plans on the campaign trail, but there's not a lot of time left before the election. This is coming down now to the crunch moments. So I guess we wait to see what happens. But overall, I'd say it's a poor debate. Trying to take a lesson, though. Naomi, do you think that our political leaders in Trinidad should have these debates as we saw in the US? Do you think that we need to see, for example, Dr. Keith Rowley, Kamala Pasabi-Sessa, Timothy Hamel-Smith, Gary Gifford, do we need to see them on a political platform themselves having a debate and telling us about their plans and policies?
I would absolutely love that. I would absolutely love that. I think a lot of people here in Trinidad would also love that. Just to hear firsthand, live, each of them, at each other, rebutting to each other. It would make for great TV. Let's just say that. It would make for great TV.
It would indeed make for great TV. It will make for great TV. But the thing is, I've been calling for a debate for the longest while. My voice is soft as compared to others. But I've been calling for a debate for the longest while. I don't think we will ever see that debate taking place because I think there are individuals who simply do not know how to debate or how to speak on a platform in that manner. And two, I personally think that many of them simply have not one clue what they are doing.
Yeah, and if we get some moderators as good as Kamala and Trump had, they had me rolling. They were great. They kept them in check, put them in their place, you know. So
I know that Trump and Kamala tried to put each other in place, but Trump was saying, "Don't interrupt me." And Kamala, when Trump called Kamala Joe Biden, she says, I'm not Joe Biden," you know. But a lot is happening.
Not Trump either.
Yeah, what is happening? A lot is happening in the world, Naomi. But that's where we're going to end it for this morning. Thank you very much for joining me on the program once more. It's been a pleasure. We look forward to having you on the program very, very soon. Yeah, very soon.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. That's Naomi Otnish and Keaton Shaw. Remember, today is a good day to have a good day. Stay tuned for more on WESN Content Capital. We've got Talking Point with Sean Michael Small coming up in a bit. It's supposed to be Sean Michael Small and Keaton Shaw, but I'm not there this morning. So you might see me either tomorrow or next week. But nonetheless, you'll see me again very soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
The Constitution doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia that's responsible for looting the country and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
It is now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept,
but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe in different criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploiting the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'd ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, so here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Questioned by the 2024 Olympic Games when the notoriously cynical French seemed to turn into a celebratory, fun-loving bunch. And it begs the question, are the French suddenly happy?
That's right, or was it just a parenthèse enchantée, as we say in French, an enchanted parentheses? What's certain, though, is that the Olympic Games were a rare moment of national cohesion and celebration. You were there, Delano. After all the complaining and the griping before the Games, one might say that is also typically French, the country really overcame its traditional reserve and gave in to this carnival spirit of the Games. The optimism was in the air. It even got silly. A lot of people wearing silly hats, I gotta say. Now, traditional grumpy Parisians lost their cool. They were united and happy, but after a party often comes a hangover.
It does. The hangover does come. I thought it was because the Parisians skipped town, but we have a lot of stereotype about the French that's backed up by quite a lot of data, and that is that the French are the world champions when it comes to pessimism and complaining. But is this really true?
Well, it certainly is a persistent cliche. Apparently, we're very negative. I don't know. I've never heard that before. We tend to see the glass half empty, the wine glass, of course. But this one is really backed up by stats. Year after year, poll after poll, it tends to confirm the fact that the French are indeed very pessimistic compared to other countries. And interestingly, the French themselves will admit that they are quite pessimistic.
Il n'y a pas vraiment de quoi se réjouir. Hein.
Avec les temps qu'on vit, je trouve pas qu'il faut avoir vraiment le moral avec la violence, tout.
La violence.
Le pouvoir d'achat, le chômage, il faut reconnaître que c'est pas évident.
Le chômage, les jeunes.
Avec tout ce qui se passe dans le monde et même chez nous, bon ben, il y a un ras-le-bol. Hein.
Tous les indicateurs sont mauvais. Les choses s'améliorent pas, je crois.
Now, Flo, one of the women in that clip used a key word that sums up French pessimism,